In this video, we are solving inequalities in one variable. If you feel like these questions are too advanced for you, there are other videos where I discuss exactly what is interval notation and also how to solve some simpler problems. But if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. In example number 1, the first thing that we want to do is distribute the 4. So I'm going to get 4x plus 12 is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. You basically want to have all the x's on one side and all the numbers on the other side. Even though this is an inequality, you would solve it pretty much the same way as you would if it were an equation with a variable on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2x from both sides. I prefer to keep the x on the left-hand side just because it's going to make it easier at the end to graph this on a number line. But if you go ahead and move it to the right-hand side, that's okay as well. Subtract 12, we get 2x is greater than or equal to negative 13 divided by 2. You don't switch the inequality. You only switch it if you are dividing by a negative number, if you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. On a number line, this is going to be 0, negative 13 over 2. This means that I'm going to have a closed circle if you are dealing with open circles, closed circles, and then you're going to shade everything to the right. Or for those of you who are using interval notation, this would mean that I would use a bracket and then I would shade everything to the right. So it all depends on how your teacher wants you to write your answer. As far as interval notation goes, if you have to write this in interval notation, you basically want everything starting at negative 13 over 2, comma, positive infinity. And yes, you can go ahead and also write this as negative 6.5 all the way to positive infinity. As a reminder, infinity never takes on a bracket because it is not a real number. It is just the idea of unboundedness. In question number 2, I'm going to start off by subtracting 10x from both sides. Once again, I prefer to keep the variable on the left-hand side, but you can do it so that it is on the right-hand side. So now here I get 13 minus 17x is less than or equal to negative 4. Then I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides. I get negative 17x is less than or equal to negative 17. Because I am dividing both sides by negative 17, then I'm going to go ahead and switch this inequality. So now I have x is greater than or equal to 1. On a number line, if I had to graph this, that means that depending on whether you're using a closed circle, because it's greater than or equal to 1, or if not, you're going to use a bracket because it's greater than or equal to, and then you would put everything that's greater to 1. So in interval notation, this answer is from 1 to positive infinity. In number 3, don't be afraid of the fraction. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1/2 x from both sides. When I subtract 1/2 x from both sides, this is the same thing as saying negative 1 minus 1/2, which is just negative 2 over 2 minus 1/2, which is negative 3 over 2. So this becomes negative 3 over 2x plus 4 is less than 1. Go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. We get negative 3 over 2x is less than negative 3. One of the things that I can do to get rid of the fraction on the left is multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 3 over 2 is negative 2/3. So I multiply both sides by negative 2/3. On the left, this cancels. Because you multiply by a negative number, you are going to have to switch the inequality. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So if I have to graph this, I want all of the numbers that are greater than 2. In this case, if you're dealing with open circle, closed circle, it will be an open circle and you would shade everything to the right. But if you're dealing with interval notation, parentheses and brackets, you would go parentheses, shade everything to the right. So in interval notation, this answer is going to be parentheses 2 to positive infinity. In question number 4, we have a fraction. One of the things that we can do to make our lives a little bit easier is multiply every single fraction by the least common denominator. The least common denominator is the same as the least common multiple. You always start with the bigger number. So here the bigger number is 8. Does 4 go into 8? Yes, 2 times. Does 3 go into 8? No. So what's the next multiple of 8? 16. Does 4 go into 16? Yes. Does 3 go into 16? No. So I can't use 16 as the least common denominator. 8 times 3 is 24. Does 4 go into 24? Yes. Does 3 go into 24? Yes. Therefore, my least common denominator here is going to be 24. This just means that I can multiply the entire inequality, so every single one of these fractions, I can multiply by 24. And what that's going to do is get rid of the denominators and get rid of the fractions altogether. So here, 4 goes into 24 6 times. Negative 3x times 6 is negative 18x is greater than or equal to. 8 goes into 24 3 times. So here, I have negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Plus, then 3 goes into 24 8 times. So 8 times 2 is 16x. So this is actually the new problem that I have to work with. And here, I'm going to now subtract 16x from both sides. That gives me negative 34x is greater than or equal to negative 15. I didn't switch the inequality because I was just subtracting. When you add or subtract, you never switch the inequality. But now that I have to divide both sides by negative 34, then yes, I'm going to go ahead and switch this inequality. So this means that x is less than or equal to positive 15 over 34. And 15 over 34 does not simplify, so that's my answer. On a number line, here's 0, here's 15 over 34. Because it is or equal to, you would shade in your circle, and it's less than or equal to, so you would shade to the left. In terms of a bracket or parentheses, then you would use a bracket here, and you would shade everything to the left. So in interval notation, you are starting from negative infinity until you get to positive 15 over 34, and then you would use a bracket because it is or equal to. Hope you found this video helpful. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more help with math so that you can say, yes, I can do math with confidence. Until next time, thanks for watching.